1 + 1 = 2. That's the exact number of genders there are on this planet. Believe it or not, me making a statement like that may come across as controversial to many, since we live in a society run by snowflakes. Now, out of 456 players, there's one who's trying to split their banana and fully transition to the other side for reasons not known to us. If you're a diehard liberal, I suggest you click off the video right here, right now. In my previous Squid Game video, someone with a black face as profile photo accused me of being ignorant. Talk about irony. I'm bound to ruffle some feathers by the end of this video. You can stick around to see if my points have merit or they're vapid in nature. This is the part where I'm supposed to pander and lie to the audience by saying some fancy crap like how there being a tranny is progressive and forward. There's nothing innovative about having some lady enter a game with the hopes to run away to a country that's notorious for having lady boys. 120 wants to migrate there in order to increase the estrogen levels to the max and have a set of double Ds. That's nonsensical, even for a show about Koreans competing in a bunch of death games to hit a jackpot. Today I feel like pulling a daily wire and spewing some takes that might put me on the radar of a blue head they them. In all honesty, Netflix is just promoting far left liberal nonsense. There's a darker ulterior motive at play here, one that I think is beyond evil. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
I like player 120 as much as anyone else, but I just didn't see the point. Look, this isn't anything new. Euphoria has jewels, but we all know HBO likes to push boundaries and do HBO things. That's a coming of age series. It's fitting. Those are American high schoolers. That's far from abnormal. This won't be the first or last time Netflix has introduced us to a character like this. This is a show about Koreans who don't know how to manage their finances, so they end up on this island in the middle of nowhere. The reason why this is seemingly bizarre and out of touch is because of the setting. Let's be real. You don't really find gender fluid people in South Korea, and you definitely won't find any in the North. If they exist, they're probably slaving away in some gulag. Or maybe Kim's fondling their nether regions for his own sadistic pleasure. That seems like a more likely scenario. This is a man who banned hot dogs in his nation. Maybe those sausages were a constant reminder that he's a glizzy gladiator on the down low and bruh just couldn't be tormented any longer. Anyways, I digress. Her being in the game and her reasons for wanting to win the cash prize, as well as the info we know about her, is so predictable and agenda based. I'm not being a bigot, I can already tell leftists are about to be pissed off in the comments on some, this guy is against progressive thinking, he's homophobic, he's too radical, this is just barbaric thinking. Fair enough, I get what the series is trying to do. In the first season we had Ali. He was the only brown boy in the show and was the diversity hire that ended up becoming a fan favorite. Anyone with more than one brain cell can see that the show is trying to replicate that tried and tested formula. Ali was a nice person. He was so naive that it ended up being his downfall. Now this season they decided to take the inclusivity approach to a whole new level. They put a character here that solely aimed to bait the queer and trans community. Like they could have just put a black person as dark as coal or maybe a white person as pale as milk, but no, they had to make a statement that would send shockwaves throughout the net. Their plan worked, clearly. Netflix wants cool points. It's the same way Disney every now and again has these weird narratives in their series. Basically, Disney is one of the earliest companies that pioneered rage baiting on a mainstream level. Disney will either insert these seemingly progressive narratives or completely flip the script and cause outrage. There's an entire animated series that, due to its trailer, made people think that the mouse is promoting Satanism to kids. I made a whole video about it. It's kind of strange how the main voice actor of that show is grieving because her husband decided to delete himself. I know when the news came out, some diehard Christians were rubbing their tinfoil hats saying shit like, well, that's what happens when you sell your soul to the devil and practice satanic rituals in the woods when nobody's watching, huh? Back to Squid Game. I don't know what the point of a character is, but by the end of the second season, we come to learn that she's macho. They're a man at heart still. Throughout the rest of this video, I'll be referring to player 120 as they, them. I don't mean it in a condescending way either, it'll just make things easier for me. So excuse me if you think I'm butchering people's pronouns. They were basically leading the rebellion because the other person who was supposed to bring the Glocks and straps had a mental breakdown. Whether it was PTSD or maybe he's a fake marine, we'll come to piece it all together in season 3. Either way, the whole point of them leading the rebellion is just some social commentary about how women are as capable, strong, and perceptive as men, blase blase blah. They have to pander to the other gender and appease their female viewers. I get it. Rake in those numbers from all frontiers. Business is business. That's not an issue. More power to you. But they could have chosen any other biological female, but for obvious reasons they didn't. If they really wanted to hammer home this point, they should have used this YouTuber's wife. This would have been the ultimate trump card. She actually has a kid on the way, like she would have been the perfect example. Her entire life has been tragic. You let this crypto YouTuber finesse the cheeks, he put a bun in your oven, and to top it off, when he said he wants to fix things, the micro expressions on your face suggested that you might consider it. For a few seconds it looked like she was tempted to even make another baby. This would have been the perfect redemption arc. Instead they let Miss HRT here lead the uprising, but obviously that's not the point. Netflix is aiming to be inclusive and put the point across that they're not a bunch of homophobes. Player 120 doesn't have any redeeming qualities. Listen, let's be real for 2 seconds. Put your emotions out of the mix. Think about it. Almost 90% of the time they were on screen, there was some reference to them not being included in a morbid allusion to them being the black sheep. I know I'm about to get some flack for this next statement, but they're probably the worst character in the entire show. The reason I say this is because of how boring they are on screen. You can't base your entire personality on the fact that you're battling your hormones and you're trying to suppress certain ones because you want the others to reign supreme. This reminds me of girls I went to school with back in the day who would make their entire personality that they're lesbian. Why people tend to do this, I don't know why. You'll go to their socials and their entire bio is riddled with references to their sexuality. Go find a personality. Having the pride flag in your pronouns doesn't make you unique, and posting about your community non-stop seems like nothing but mental illness. Get help. Seriously. It's the equivalent of pretentious influencers putting a change.org link in their bios whenever there's pandemonium happening in some country that ends up making global headlines. Leftists are fuming right now, I get it, but that's why they say the truth is a hard pill to swallow. Even the lady who Thanos had a crush on was more exciting in my opinion, and she barely had any screen time. She barely said anything. Her interaction with the bee during the first game captivated me way more than any scene with 120. Season 2 has a larger problem, the worst one. It's blatantly obvious, but nobody wants to address it. This is one of the biggest problems with season 2, it's too concerned with trying to mirror characters from the first season. For example, we have player 1. He's as cunning as that old bastard. Not only that, but he also happens to be the more mobile version of the old man, aka one of the VIPs. The North Korean guard is a defector just like player 67, Thanos is a bully like player 101, now 120 is this season's Ali. You see where I'm going with this? I don't want to drone on about this forever, you get the message. 120 has no charm like him though. There's no appeal to their character. I don't find anything about 120 to be outstanding. Every other person here kinda elicits some sympathy out of me. Even this old man who owes like 10 billion won made me feel something. Bruh is so old and sad that he's even in debt of $7 million. That's such an insane figure, I even had to say it in USD so you can realize just how fucked he is. At this point, just sell a kidney or take it up the ass or something. Like, I'm way more intrigued about his backstory. How did he even accumulate such an egregious debt? That number is gargantuan. I even had to use the words egregious and gargantuan in the same sentence. Every time 120 is on the screen, I'm like, get off. There's even that whole scene where they enter the bathroom. I don't even have to say anything about that. If you have 2 brain cells, you would have caught that toilet/gender commentary. Before you think I'm being too cruel, let's go back to Ali. Ali's appeal was that he was a chilled person, yet due to this, he ended up being used like a condom and ultimately discarded. If he never died, he was going to end up being the ultimate villain. That marble game would have turned any saint into Lucifer. The point is, he wasn't having long stretched out monologues about being a brown boy and making it the nucleus of his personality. He would have lost all his charm if half the time he was on some... In South Korea, everyone stops and stares because they think I pray to cows, and according to the internet, my people smell like curry and were ridiculously horny. And by the way, I forgot to mention that the red dot on our foreheads isn't a laser being pointed at us. 120 is like that one person in a group project. They're there just to fill the quota. I think the director and writers were too influenced by The Matrix since the creators of that franchise changed their genders. Now this series has a character that follows suit, like it gets to a point where it's enough. There are other parallels between that franchise and this one, but that's a story for another day. It's reminding me of the days when someone would ask to copy your homework and then they tell you how they won't write the same shit, but they end up doing it anyway. Don't be surprised if she manages being one of the few characters that makes it all the way to the end of the games or somehow ends up being a savior in some way. The only positive thing that came from this is how player 149 went from initially looking at her in a funny way to eventually being like her grandma. Which is a nice touch, I guess, since player 120's entire family cut ties with her ever since she came to the realization that she wants to snip her genitals off. I saw a fan account on Twitter for this character the other night and I was like, oh shit, here we go again. Also, one last question, it's probably the most important one. I really need you to think about this. 3, 2, 1, smash or pass?